welcome to another episode of Get to the Good Part. My name is Ryan, and with me today are a couple of people that I'm really excited to talk to. As always, we have Aaron with us today. Aaron, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
All right, and our special guest today from the community. If you're into Ready Player One and you follow anything Ready Player One on Twitter, the subreddit, you know this guy is Goth Machine Goth. What's up, man?
Hey, it's good to be here. Hello.
Chris is actually not here today. He had a last minute problem with his Oasis rig, so we're going to let him slide for this week. This week, Aaron and I are both drinking. That's right.
Yeah.
Glenmorangie on the rocks. Is it well? You're the expert here, Aaron. Is it Glenmorangie or is it Glenmorangie?
It's actually neither of those. It's Glenmorangie. Mr. Will Wheaton gets it wrong. It is. You can actually go on YouTube and you can find a series of videos done by a Scottish actor person he's just reading off names of the distilleries. And if you find Glenmorangie, you'll hear how an indigenous person would say it.
Do you want to take a swing at an impression there? Just Glenmorangie. I should know that after you've talked about it so many times.
Have I talked about it that many times?
Well, just in the lead up to this.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because we wanted to make sure that we had it on deck and everything like that. So, all right. Well, today we are talking about Chapter 18. A chapter that begins with an invitation from Mr. Ogden Morrow himself. He's actually going to be hosting his birthday party at the Distracted Globe. Now, when Wade is picking apart this invitation, he mentions that he sees, the old gray wizard sitting there at the DJ booth, really getting into whatever he's playing. And I think this is the first mention of the anti-Sixers logo, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because if you look, and when you which seems like kind of a small detail, but when you look at any fan-made merchandise or anything like that, the Sixers logo, the anti-Sixers logo, is one that really stuck with people.
Yeah, it took on a life of its own, and somebody out there must have designed the original one that we always see everywhere. So I want to give an applause to that one. The one that has a little dot in the middle of the six. But
yeah,
that logo is everywhere.
Isn't that the same font that's on the cover of the novel?
I think it is.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's like an official image or anything like that. I think that's just a fan-made thing.
I'm sure we'll see the official one in a few weeks.
It'd be kind of cool to see, because there was that, and I forget the guy's name that did that really great that fan-made image of Wade in the van, wearing the flannel with the Flash t-shirt.
Yeah, that one's great.
I really feel like they took that piece of art into consideration when they made, the stills that we've seen of the movie. You know what I mean? Because it's pretty damn close.
True.
So, I mean, the fan inspiration there, it'd be interesting to see how they portray the anti-Sixer logo in the movie when it finally comes out.
It always used to seem so far away. Now it's like, oh my God, it's coming up.
It is coming fast.
It's coming real fast. I mean, it seems like a day ago. It was the beginning of January. It's just, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait. This might be a good point to bring this up. When we had originally started the podcast, our intention was to wrap it up before the end of the movie. Before the movie debuted. Just basically, with time and expectations being what they are, that's not going to happen at this point. We're not going to wrap it up before the end of the movie. But I don't think that's a bad thing. We've got a pretty consistent schedule going. I think we're going to stick with that. And I think we're going to, keep the show going beyond the release of the movie. That'll give us some time to do some episodes breaking down the movie. We'll probably give you a little bit of time before. Actually, maybe this is something we'll bring up on Reddit and Facebook and Twitter and things like that. Because I'd be interested to see if people want like a breakdown of the movie right after, or should we give it a week or two so that the people who can't see it right away don't feel tempted to just hit play on the podcast and see what it was all about.
Plus, it will give us more time to see it multiple times because that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see it more than once for sure. I've already told my boss, like, that's going to be That's gonna be a day off right there for me. No question about it. All right, so back to chapter 18, off of the movie. We we have a little bit of talk here from Wade, talking about, obviously he's set on going. We learn here that the distracted globe lies in a PvP zone. Does that seem unnecessarily risky to you?
As far as Wade / Parzival going,
Well, but first of all, Wade, yeah, but why would they hold it in, or why wouldn't they? I mean, it's a magic zone. Og clearly is a god in the Oasis, so he could change it from a PvP zone to a no combat zone. Why wouldn't he do that?
Yeah, at least within at least within the distracted globe itself.
Right.
it's an odd choice because who's going to a club with the intent of whipping out their magic swords and their blasters with the intent to kill people? That it's bizarre. What it seems like. It seems like something IROC would do.
To go there to like hurt
Go
somebody
there and hurt somebody. It's like,
or start some shit.
I mean, we heard how he walks into, the basement, a place that you can't hurt anybody. So what's the point? It's odd.
It is. I thought it was a really odd thing, and they stick on it as a point for a while. I mean, like, of course, Wade has to make the decision as to whether or not he wants to go. Obviously, there are risks involved, but it just seems like here's a year where, in a very short span of time, Wade has found the first key, right? They're in the middle of finding the second key. Everybody's kind of keyed up. There's a lot of people on the board, and there's clearly some friction going on. The Sixers are ramping up. They've already displayed that they're willing to do quite a bit to prevent other people from getting the egg. You know what I mean? As far as blocking off entire planets and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you've invited the 5 people who are the farthest along in the hunt. That there's going to be an altercation. You would have to guarantee that there would be an altercation, right?
It's an invitation to an altercation.
Basically.
In some ways, I'm almost more, I guess, disturbed by the fact that H is probably in his televised deathmatch thing. Why is he still doing those?
You mean as opposed to like going into the hunt and everything like that?
Well, that, and I mean, I would imagine that something that's a televised deathmatch would actually be a PvP zone.
Sure.
So if he's competing in these things, he's putting himself at exceptional risk.
Sure. But do you think that maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't really die when you're in a competition like that?
Where's the fun in that?
Really, I don't know. But I mean, to have your character just completely wiped out because you were participating in basically sport, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's a really good point though, because it's, why would you take that unnecessary risk? I mean, like, obviously there's risk involved for Wade to go to the distracted globe, but for, it's sort of like a flip of the coin. It's like, they could show up, they could not, but if they do show up, there's going to be a lot of them, and I'm in my dancing clothes. But like for H, he's going into a death match. The word death match is used.
Maybe his competitors in the death match are IOI's best. Maybe IOI is sending their best people to face up against him.
Why wouldn't they try that?
Yeah, I thought that's another approach to try to attack the high five. It's like, okay, we know he's there every Friday. Let's send one of our best every week till we get him.
That would be an excellent plot device too. Just like set up almost like a gladiator type thing. Or you've got like, just these different keyed up characters from IOI dropping into the arena deathmatch, and
every
you just
week.
watch H just completely destroy them. That would be pretty entertaining. We're retconning here.
What we need is somebody to fanfic it.
That would be a good one.
That would be a good premise to go off of. Just like, a few episodic tales of H in the middle of his death match. If it's anything like Call of Duty, I imagine it's not very romantic, but a lot of mom jokes and shit. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully by 2045 we've graduated to a higher class of competitive online play, because it is a dumpster fire right now. Anyways, off topic. But as far as why H wouldn't become a full-time gunter, I mean, I'm sure he's probably already had endorsement deals with some of the companies that Parzival's getting endorsement deals with, because he is like Parzival said, like he's a pretty well established competitive online player.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it could be that this is his primary source of income, and he really can't not participate.
that's what I'm thinking.
Well,
I mean, he's probably.
It seems like it seems like the High Five are very enterprising as soon as they get a chance. I mean, Artie has all of her deals. Parzival has all of his deals. Daito and Shoto, they have all their deals. They all become spokesmen or salesmen. They have their own cartoons. They're all in it for the money as soon as they get the chance.
So they're kind of like the YouTube stars of today.
Yeah,
sort of, yeah. And we'll touch on that. I think a little bit deeper in a couple chapters, because they do kind of talk about that a little bit. So we'll shelf that, because the YouTube star thing is something that I definitely want to keep in our back pocket for a future discussion. But we've got Wade in a moment where he's deciding whether or not he's going to make his way to Neo Noir to go to the Distracted Globe. It's a pretty quick decision, as far as I can tell. He doesn't mull over it for too long. Before you know it, he's changing skins on his avatar and trying to make sure his hair looks perfectly coiffed and whatnot. Yeah, so I mean, if he had any sort of reservation, it was gone nearly immediately.
It could still be part of that facade that he's putting up for Artemis.
How do you mean?
Look, in the last chapter, he made a point of saying that he, wanted to seem braver in her eyes, and not like he didn't care about the risk of being ambushed by IOI. So
Right.
maybe this is just a continuance of that. Just like, hey, fuck it, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. It does seem that there is definitely an air of fuck it about him when it comes to making the decision, and it's hard to tell, like, because he talks about Artemis, because he emails Artemis and asks if she's going, like, right away. But it really seemed like his big decision point was, I was invited to Og's birthday, of course I'm going. Like, it seemed like it was more about Og tomorrow than it was about Artemis.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. But if he really sat there and thought about it, I think any rational person would say, you know what, it may not be worth the risk. Maybe just send Og, thanks, but maybe not this time.
What do you get, the guy that has everything?
Yeah.
What do you get, the guy who has lightning fingers? Who knows? I mean, we'll talk about lightning fingers a little bit later. One of my favorite parts of the chapter. But yeah, like we said, Wade resolves to go. He's definitely going to go to the Distracted Globe on Neo Noir. This is a part of the chapter that bothered me a little bit.
How so?
He said he's never been to the Distracted Globe before, and he said because the people that go there twinked out wannabe Gunter Uber dorks. Seems like kind of an asshole thing to say. Very judgmental.
Yeah, for somebody who was a nobody up until about 5 months ago.
Right, you would think that there would be some perspective applied to how to judge people, you know what I mean?
This could be another reference of saying how many people out there are not really gunters, and there's only really a few people who are hardcore.
True.
That's a good point.
I get it's just like rave kids, like, I mean, he sees them as just like, this is not my people.
For the planet, the Neo Noir, it embodies IROC, if IROC were a planet.
Sort of. At least the people who go to it is sort of what he's implying. But I do want to get into Neo Noir itself, because we get I think this is one of the better parts about this chapter is the world building here again. Just the way he describes this city. I mean, you've got a pretty good, picture painted. Also, as we approach the Distracted Globe, I will say that, some of the more memorable parts of the trailer, one of the big memorable parts of the trailer is in the Distracted Globe. And we'll point to it when we get there. But Wade dons the Buckaroo Banzai suit, which to me always looked like a looser fitting version of Pee Wee Herman's suit. But
so he labors over this decision, and that's what he ends up with.
yeah, a baggy Pee Wee Herman suit. He says he just crams his inventory with every powerful weapon he has, which, for good cause, I think.
But wouldn't you think it's like, if you have to pack that much stuff with you to go to this birthday party, you might think maybe this isn't the smartest move.
Yeah, if you're ever, here's a good rule in the Oasis and in life itself. If you're getting into your car and you have to pack an arsenal just in case, your destination might need to be rethought.
Yeah, you might want to reconsider your life choices.
Yeah, you're heading into a place you probably ought not be. Anyways, so he decides he's gonna go, gears up, dresses up, and he's on his way to the PvP zone neo-noir. Now, from the description, it says, sky high skyscrapers, things like that. The description of it at this point reminded me of two different movies. It reminded me of Blade Runner.
That was my first thought.
And it also reminded me of Fifth Element a little bit.
Yeah.
With the flying cars and all that.
Yeah.
I got that kind of feeling from it. And those movies, I think, fit pretty comfortably within the description of like that.
Yeah.
That, what they were going for when they built that planet.
I think if you watched Fifth Element with the brightness on your television set to like 10%, I think you got it.
Yeah. And fewer colors too.
Yeah.
Because I just imagine it looking, like just like that sort of like a retro futuristic, 1920s, noir time in like LA, like the movie Chinatown. Everything just looks wet all the time because it looks like it just rained for some reason.
I kind of get an image of that movie Dark City.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. And that fits that description too. The reference he uses when he's sort of relating neo-noir to something else, he doesn't say Blade Runner, he doesn't say any of those movies. He says Neuromancer, which if you're on the Ready Player One subreddit and you get out of, you finish, this happens probably 3 times a week where somebody finishes Ready Player One and they're like, oh my God,
what do I read next?
More. What do I read next? And almost every time, if not every time, someone will say Neuromancer.
Yeah, I think that one's still on my to-read list.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was a movie or a book, so I agree with you.
It's been a
Gibson,
while.
Right?
It is Gibson. It's William Gibson.
Who I think is in the infamous list of authors in Chapter 6. There was a book that I read that was suggested as a reasonable follow-up to Ready Player One, and I cannot think of the title offhand. I am going to try to search for it right now, but it had something to do with a pizza delivery guy.
Oh, I have read that one. That is Snow Crash.
Ah, that's it.
Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson.
That's it. Yep. Which I have to say, I was not a real fan of that book.
Did you read it? Or did you do the audiobook?
I read it. I think I actually read it with Dead Tree Media. And yeah, I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't follow it.
It's a bit different, and it's funny too because like it's sort of like satire because the main character's name is Hero Protagonist.
Yeah.
But it's like HIRO Protagonist. But back to Neuromancer being, his reference point for what neo-noir is supposed to look like. He's cruising up to the Distracted Globe. Now, what do we want to cover first here? Do we want to cover what the globe looks like, or we want to cover what he's riding in?
Well, first I'll say that every time I read this, I just kind of thought, Distracted Globe, that's a pretty cool name, right? Didn't think much of it. But in getting ready for the podcast, I'm like, well, let's see if this exists anywhere else on the interwebs. And it actually does. Well, not so much on the interwebs, but in literature. It's from Hamlet, of all places.
Really?
Mm.
Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 5. Remember thee, I, thou, poor ghost, whiles memory holds a seat in this distracted globe, remember thee. So, if I read Hamlet, it was a long fucking time ago, so I had no idea what the fuck is going on in this scene. But
No
fortunately,
context.
fortunately, the internet had an idea. So what's going on in this scene is that he's talking with the ghost of his father, and distracted globe is actually referencing the globe is his head. So
Hmm.
what I took from that was a couple things. One, the whole idea of the distracted globe, distracted head thing could just be a subtle nod to the fact that Parzival has been so distracted to the hunt because of Artemis. That was one place I was going with that. The other thought was, this is Ogg's club, and distracted globe is a reference to the scene in Hamlet where Hamlet is talking with the ghost of his father. So I'm like, maybe the distracted globe is sort of like this uh, a conduit or portal thing between Parzival and the ghost of Halliday, and that Og is kind of that link between the two.
Oh, okay. That links back to our level 1 discussion too,
Yes.
about the greater importance of Halliday's character within the book.
I thought that was it was pretty cool to find out that Distracted Globe was more than just a nifty little name that Ernest Cline came up with, and then just all the delving into it. It was like, pretty neat.
You know what? Even if he didn't intend that and he just thought Distracted Globe sounded cool, if I were him, I'd totally be like, yeah, that's what it was about.
Yeah, why not?
Totally. That's what I meant to do that, because that is cool. I mean, it almost seems like that comparison, when you're retconning and stuff like that, you can go back and you can make up pretty much anything you want, make those connections, and it sounds great. But that one almost seems so intentional, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From this just this small, this small piece of Hamlet. This one line.
This is definitely one of those questions we have to ask Ernie.
Yeah. Should we get the opportunity? We'll see. But yeah, so he's cruising up to the distracted globe. Now the distracted globe is a pretty interesting feature of the planet. It hangs above the ground and is obviously, as it suggests, it's a giant sphere. It's a globe, and there's a crystal staircase leading up to it. You enter from the bottom of the globe. I don't know what kind of runway they have for the cars coming in, because it almost sounds like a red carpet situation when Parzival arrives in his, of course, DeLorean.
Yeah.
And not just any tune, not just any DeLorean. It's basically a tricked out DeLorean that resembles the one that Ernest Cline himself owns in real life. You guys want to? So I guess I'm trying to remember all the features of it. It's got Kit's lights on the front.
Yep.
It's got a non-operational flux capacitor. So don't worry about any nuclear meltdowns or anything happening from it. It's not functional.
It's got the oscillation overthruster, which lets it travel through solid matter.
Is that from something?
I think that's from
that's
Buckaroo
Buckaroo
Banzai, right?
That's right.
Is it? I've still haven't seen Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, me neither.
And I was noticing, I was double checking, the license plate is Ecto 88, which I think we know is perfect, but the license plate in Buckaroo Banzai is Rocket 88.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's just a combination of the two things.
Yeah.
Because it's also got the Ghostbusters logo on the doors.
Yep. The
Man,
glowing doors. Heck yeah.
That's so badass. But when so in addition to being a PvP zone, this is also a magic zone, which we've covered in previous chapters. And magic zones in the Oasis, you can cast spells. You can do all kinds of, mind-bending kind of stuff. And there are a lot of perks to that, one of which is, instead of having to secure his car like Mad Max. He can just shrink it and put it in his pocket, which is but I don't know why, but after the first time I read the book, that was one of the things that stuck with me pretty heavily because I thought it was just so cool that you could just shrink your car and put it in your pocket.
Yeah, I just kind of picture him like pulling his pocket and then just dropping it in like nothing. Yeah,
I could see that
like
in the
like
film.
a Hot Wheels.
I could see that in the film.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be because it's such a cool visual. But little did the Sixers know all they had to do was just cast a spell to make it grow again. They would have been able to take out Parzival right away.
So if they make a Hot Wheels sized DeLorean that looks like what he's describing, I'm buying that shit.
Oh, they better. They've got to have a Hot Wheels version of the Ecto 88.
Oh, that'd be so awesome. How awesome will that be for Ernie to be like, yeah, that's my car?
What about a
fucking own that one.
I'm old school. I like model kits. I'd like to assemble that thing myself with a Revel kit or model making kit.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Or they'll probably have, well, I don't know. It depends on how well the movie does, but remote control cars, things like that. Obviously, you can't make it shrink, but man.
Or can they?
Or can they? They can make those. Spielberg's doing some crazy shit.
But they can print it out onto that shrinky dink stuff. You can color it in and then put it in your oven.
And then carry it around in your pocket.
Is that what that was called? Shrinky dink?
Perfect.
Yeah. It was shrinky dinks.
Oh man.
Yeah. But so they're at the Distracted Globe now. This is, as you're reading through the book and everything like that, there's so much going on that I think the first couple times I read the book, I kind of glossed over how the globe works. If you've ever seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, the XD-1 is their interplanetary interstellar ship that looks like a giant wheel. One of the first scenes on that ship is him running, and he's running around the wheel, but he's always got the ground below him. He's never, it never appears from his perspective like he's on the ceiling of this thing. He's just in constant rotation. The outer walls of the sphere are the ground. So anywhere you walk, you feel like you're on flat surface, when in fact you may be on the side of the sphere, the top of the sphere, the other side of the sphere. It's just kind of cool. But it did remind me of that scene from 2001: Space Odyssey.
Well, the scale of it also makes it more believable. It's 3 kilometers diameter. That's a city. That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah. So 3 kilometers. If you're in the inside, it's going to look flat.
Yeah. And it would, it's sort of just like I almost imagine it looking like in Inception when the streets start, like folding up. Like I imagine it kind of being like that, only a bar.
Yeah, even though it's that big, I still feel like if I walked in there, I would need guardrails or handrails so that I wouldn't fall over from disorientation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely claustrophobia, even though it's 3 kilometers across.
It would be weird. It'd be disorienting.
I mean, even the Google Cardboard thing, which is as close as I've gone to putting on a VR headset, it just is disorienting.
I can't even imagine. But it would be badass. So this is the movie, the moment when he walks into the Distracted Globe. This is the moment you see in the movie trailer where the whole thing is kind of hung in blue and black lighting, and he walks in and he looks up and he sees those characters just swirling around above him. That scene is the Distracted Globe. I assume if you're listening to this podcast, you already knew that, but just to fill it in, there you go. That was also one of the most interesting parts of the trailer for me, because we did, our whole trailer recap in a previous episode and everything, but the things that came out online, just the detail in there is what I look forward to the most. It's going to be like playing Where's Waldo, but everywhere you look is something incredibly interesting to see. And one of the things somebody pointed out, and I think we brought it up in the trailer recap, I can't remember, but like if you look off to the right in the trailer at the bar, Hagar the Horrible is sitting at the bar. And that's just one character. I mean, there's a ton. I can't remember all the others, but I mean, people have freeze framed that part of the trailer and picked out a bunch of different, a bunch of different characters. I don't know if you guys recall any.
Well, I think the imagery of that is very universal. I mean, everybody likes the idea of walking into a that and you're dancing weightless. There's something magical or universal that everybody clicks and goes, "That's cool." I mean, dance floor weightless. What else do you need to say?
Yeah, I mean it's like in the chapters when they were introducing Ludus and what it was like to go to school there. When he was talking about like the zero gravity sports that they play and things like that, where it's like this real visual of like, holy shit, you can do anything in this place. This is amazing. But yeah, so I will make a little mention of it. I don't really want to go too far into it, but just before he enters the club, he mentions that he's just being screamed at. There are some people that love him. Some people are yelling death threats at him. Some people are, like cheering for him. It's just sort of this mixed bag of reactions to seeing Parzival in real life. So he's not there in disguise. He is there as Parzival. He is there as the celebrity Parzival. But anyways, we don't need to focus on that too much. We get into the globe. Walks in, and I think R2D2 is just up on stage at this point playing the 88 remix of Blue Monday by New Order. Do you remember that song? Have you ever heard that remix?
Can't say that I have.
Yeah, I want to like the first 30 seconds of that song. Chris, when you're listening to this in editing, just play instead of doing the music on the outro, just play the last 30 or the first 30 seconds of the 88 remix of Blue Monday. It's equally disorienting. there's just like a million different sounds happening at a certain point. And I was listening to it and I was like, what the fuck is this? It was weird. I mean, as the song progresses and everything like that, I mean, like obviously you can tell it's Blue Monday, but it's a weird song. I can see why he chose it for this scene. I can't imagine adding any other sound effects to it though.
I love the idea of droid sounds mixed in. I thought that was wonderful. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And if you haven't listened to the Star Wars Galactic Funk from 1978, Miko, I definitely recommend it. It's on YouTube. It's Star Wars disco with droid sounds. It's super cool.
I think I have heard that actually, because I think the guys that do the Star Wars Minute podcast, I think they rotate out songs about songs from that as their intro and outro music.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but so yeah, he goes in. They're rocking to that. I think part of the reason that Chris pikered out on us today was not about an update of his computer. I was looking forward to giving him more shit for being a huge Duran Duran fan. You probably remember that from a previous episode, but Chris will say, no, it's my wife. She really likes Duran Duran. I'm here to tell you this guy is a Duraniac. He's a Duranimal. That man he's got Duran Duran PJs. Guarantee it. He's not here.
I thought they were called Duranis or something.
Duranis is what they're called. But I still think Duraniacs or Duranimals is better. I'm not pulling punches on that. I don't know anybody who is a Duranimal myself, but if they've got a fan club, I want that brought up in the next meeting, next annual meeting, because Duranis is just sort of, I don't know. It's like calling your fan club the Bostonians or something. You know, it's just like it's like Duranis. Yeah, let's just call it that. It just seems lazy. Plus, you can say you're the Duraniacs. That's what I call it. Anyways.
So, is this a good time to plug One Among the Fence? Because he did a great job with this chapter.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Fence and his special effects on this chapter, out of this world. Put the link at the end of this one when you upload this one, would you, Ryan?
Yeah. I actually haven't gotten to this chapter yet. Does he include music and everything like that?
Oh,
he's got the music, and you have the droid sounds over the music too. It's wonderfully done. It's worth skipping around to it.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, listen to it as soon as possible. And
all right, we'll put a.
In fact, if you listen to that chapter first, you'll be hooked to listen to all the chapters.
I have. I've listened to a bunch of them. I think I stopped somewhere around chapter 12 for some reason, but I need to pick it back up. But at any rate, we'll put a link to Fence's reimagining of this chapter in the show notes, so that you can take a look at it. For those of you who don't know, One Among Fence, he was on our show during our community host episode. Wasn't he on that episode? He was.
I think so.
But he what he's been doing is he's been taking the audiobook for Ready Player One, and he's been adding background sound to it, to the narration, and it is phenomenal. It's a really great way to listen to the book. But anyways, like I said, we'll put a link to that in our notes. Next, Parzival goes up to the bar, grabs himself a drink. What does he grab?
The Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. That's from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I
Right.
had to look it up. I mean, when I was in secondary school, all my friends were reading Hitchhiker's Guide, and they never told me about it. They never recommended it. So this went right over my head.
That's one of the few books that I read like on paper form that actually made me laugh while reading it.
It's a great book.
Yeah,
and it ties in too because he's Og also has "Don't Panic" on the front of his thing, his DJ booth there. I guess that's what it's called. But track switches to Duran Duran, Union of the Snake, and Parzival does something that really reminds me of Hudson Hawk here. Where, do you remember when Hudson Hawk was like picking lock or something like that? He would the guy he was with. Did you ever see Hudson Hawk? Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago. I can barely remember even one line.
He's like a cat burglar, and his partner would yell something or would say a song, and he would say the album name, the artist, and what year it came out, and then the length of the song.
That has got to.
And it was like their thing together.
That has got to be a reference that Ernie's doing.
I would think, but you know, I mean, it is sort of in line with his character to throw out stuff like that. You know, so I don't know if it is a tie back into Hudson Hawk, but if it is, I'm pretty happy about it because I love that movie. I freaking love that movie. At that point, we've got Artemis swinging up, saying,
not bad, Ace.
Because she overhears him reciting the chapter and verse of Duran Duran. And there she is, decked out in front of him with a page boy haircut and a blue dress that looks like it was spray painted on. His words, not mine. And this is sort of the beginning of an equal parts, I think, sort of touching and sort of we'll get into it. But anyways, it was at this moment that I had this like sort of I was sort of surprised about the setting. Like, Og's throwing a party where people are dancing. Wouldn't it be more in line with the story to, instead of having it at this like giant globe and this just techno party, I would think that it would be in like a high school gym.
Oh yeah, that would be so. Actually, you know what? That might be more of a thing that how they would have done.
Do. Sure, but I mean, for the purposes of the story.
Oh, for the story,
that
would have been.
Ernest Cline is writing. I mean, this scene seems like something that could happen like at a punch bowl or near a locker or something like that. And plus, this, you know, what we're about to see when the Sixers bust in through the roof of the globe, how much cooler would that have been to like see that in a high school? You know, where all of a sudden it's just like there's this galactic battle inside of a high school. It'd just be, I don't know. Just that setting, it just seems like it would be really funny and just kind of bizarre to see. But I don't know. This whole scene kind of reminds me of a moment between two people at like a high school gym. You know?
Yeah, it's an intimate scene.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the dancing scene is one of the weirdest fucking things I have ever read in my life. I don't know why. I just like the whole time I read it, I was reading it, I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, I agree. It's first of all, I'm gonna say this, as I'm sure it's not a surprise, but I'm not a dancing type person. But I understand why some people get a kick out of it. But I don't see that I just don't see that desire being fulfilled by whatever people are doing in this particular club. Especially when we get into all the detail about how Parzival is using software and they're doing all the shape shifting. It doesn't seem at all like what someone who really enjoys dancing. I don't see them having any
Which
enjoyment out of it. It seems more like
he
something you'd want to watch, not participate in.
right, and he doesn't. I mean, he clearly doesn't enjoy dancing, but just like she turns into a mermaid for a second, and
Yeah,
then she
why?
like speeds off and then she turns into a blob, and he starts looking like Plastic Man on LSD. I was like, what the fuck is happening here? It's just so bizarre. And it's very out of place in this scene when like you could have had and especially conspicuously, I would say missing from this book. I'm pretty sure it's missing. If I'm wrong, someone will correct me. I guarantee it. But I don't think there's any reference to Dirty Dancing anywhere in the book. Which is sort of a crime because that movie was as much defining of the 80s as any other.
Movie that takes place in the 50s, right?
I think so.
Or just a line from the movie would be fine. Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Well, there are no corners in the distracted globe.
That's why it would work.
That is a good point. There's no corners to put baby in the distracted globe, but there's plenty of dancing to be done. I mean, but you could have done I'm surprised he didn't turn that into a point of just like throwing in references where like from Flashdance, like she pulls on something and like a bunch of water falls down on her, or like, stupid shit like that.
Yeah, there should have been some NPC dancers from all kinds of 80s movies in there.
And like Pee-wee hops up on the bar and does the tequila dance.
Oh, he's already dressed for it. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, it would have been perfect. He's wearing the bonsai suit. He's doing the Pee-wee. Oh fuck.
He could have said to Artie, "You're a maniac."
if Ernest Klein, if you're listening, that would have been awesome. But anyways,
we can hope it's in the movie.
Yeah, but instead we get they turn themselves into a giant, like you said, like a lava lamp. It's just a bizarre, weird scene. And that leads to, next we go into, I mean, what I would say is probably the quintessential 80s love song. I mean, there are more, but I mean, Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper, I think Cyndi Lauper is probably pretty closely connected with anybody who's into Spielberg movies and things like that, just because of her involvement with the Goonies.
Well, she
holds a special place.
As you guys know, I'm old, and I want to tell everybody, Cyndi Lauper was huge in the 80s. I mean, big star. So I think Ernie chose perfectly. Not to reference her would be a mistake. So she's perfect. I thought it was perfect to put her song in here.
Yeah, and it reinforces the high school dance kind of thing, because I mean, I went to high school in the 90s, and I'm pretty sure that played at every high school dance I was at.
You went to high school dances? I didn't.
Me either.
You didn't go to any? Why not?
If they occurred, I was not invited, or didn't want to go, or just knew that if I showed up, it would have been bad.
Oh man, I always went with my friends.
Oh,
I had dates.
You needed to have friends to go to those things. I didn't have those either.
That was the trick.
I didn't get the memo about having friends.
Get to the good part. A Ready Player One podcast. Oh god. But yeah, so this is a built out to be a pretty touching moment. They go into like a slow dance, and they mention here, this is kind of cool, and I love this concept for the distracted globe. He brought it up sort of before, but in addition to mixing the music, Og is controlling the spin of this sphere that's around them, which seems fucking dangerous if you're standing on the sidelines, if you're sitting at the bar and you're just kind of strapped in. It'd be like riding the Gravitron while getting drunk. Like, horrible combination. but yeah, like but everything starts spinning counterclockwise, which gives like the illusion that everything's kind of like spinning around them. They're like specks in a snow globe. And I mean, it's one of those very romantic moments. And then Wade, as is his character, puts his foot in his mouth, screws it all up by saying, "I'm in love with you," which he should know is probably a bridge too far, right?
Well, he should. He's very learned in the '80s movies.
It never works. But I mean, he knows Artemis. Artemis he should have known her reaction to that was not going to be positive, right? I mean, literally one chapter ago. I mean, I realize there's been time that's passed since the beginning of the last chapter and now, because they went through that whole like dating phase and all that kind of thing. But he should have known that, and I'm sure a lot of their conversations probably seemed really similar to what they had at the beginning of the last one. It seems like, they've lightened up around each other at the beginning of this. They're actually dancing together, but then to come out and say, "I love you" right there, it just seems odd. It seemed like a bad idea.
I would say he should have known it was a bad idea, or at least had maybe a hint of it being a bad idea. But I would also say that she should have known it was going to come at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
sure.
we talked about this in the previous chapter about, what his lack of being taught how to properly interact with other people. And so his only external influence on how to deal with these situations are through these pop culture references that he's been studying for 5 years, right? So in some ways, he was conditioned inadvertently by all these movies and books and all that stuff from that time period of what he was going to do, and he was going to fuck it up. But equally so, Artemis has seen, tons and tons of these tropes being played out in films and the TV shows from that era. That how could she not know that he was one day going to blurt something out like that or fall in love with her? Yeah. And that's all I have to say about that.
Right, but I mean, and that's why I don't think that her response wasn't that. It wasn't outrageous.
No, it wasn't outrageous, but it does say that she looked at him in shock.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me, is that, like, I don't think she should have been shocked. I think she should have been like, "Oh crap, this is happening now.
Yeah,
oh shit,
let's talk."
I saw this coming.
Boy, time to break this poor kid's heart.
Private chat. Come on. Here we go.
By the way, how awesome is it that you could go into like a club scene and just be like, "Yeah, let's private channel this shit."
Fuck yeah. How many times have you been out to dinner with people or something like that, and you want to tell your wife, like, "Hey, as soon as we get a break in the conversation, let's get the check and just get the fuck out of here." Like, could you imagine? It'd be like telekinetically, just like communicating with somebody. It's so resourceful. It's the most useful thing in the world.
See, I just thought of this now. Like, one of the benefits of the Oasis in this situation, you're at this like club, hit the mute button so you don't have to listen to that shit. You could actually hear people talk.
Yeah, that'd be a great option. It's like, it's conversation
I would love
option.
that in the real world.
So just mute everybody around you except for the two of you?
Yeah, or at least turn the volume down. I mean, we've all been at places that it's just a little too loud.
Yeah. But I feel like that's why you go to a place like that, right? I mean, you're there for like the dancing and the
normal
booming.
people go to those places for, but not me.
I'm here to stew and drink my whiskey.
Fuck yeah, I'm going to drink my whiskey. I don't usually get my whiskey out anymore, but
yeah. It's certainly not from a place like the Distracted Club.
Yeah.
Who knows? But they probably have whatever you could possibly want, right?
Yeah, and I wonder, like, so when he goes and gets his Pangalactic Gargle Blaster and she gets her Glenmorangie on the rocks, does their credit count get a little bit lower? Are they paying for these things?
Can they taste it?
Can they taste it? Maybe they can, maybe there's some type of haptic device that can give you some sensation other than holding the glass.
Well, they've got the smell one, the smell tower.
That's not till later.
That's not till later, but it's not. Let's allow it because I think it's got a place in this conversation. How could you simulate taste in the Oasis? I mean, he mentions that like if you go, like remember, if you go to restaurants or things like that, you can order food and it'll show up at your door, but it's not necessarily like you can't eat pizza in the Oasis. So I don't know how that works. It didn't really get fleshed out.
Yeah,
it's good visual, but
well, I mean, like it's just kind of funny how it's pure flair. The idea of ordering a drink at this bar, it's all for show.
Yeah.
What does Glenmorangie smell like?
Oh, what does Glenmorangie smell like? Well, that's a complicated question because it can be kind of different for everybody. If you read the Glenmorangie tasting notes, they mention that it has a nose of citrus and peach. I get more of a sour apple and honey nose to it.
Honey, definitely.
And they also mentioned vanilla, which I think is more on the palate than the aroma for me. But it is a typical Highland single malt. It's got that profile, very fruity, and it's a wonderful dram. I've been drinking this one for quite a few years, but I was saving opening the bottle that I had for this podcast.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Oh man. But so yeah, we don't know if they can taste it or not. But I'll bet he was tasting some real alcohol right now because he is hearing some pretty bad news.
He's getting his heart stomped on right now.
Yeah, and his reaction to it makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't know of a better way to say it, but like when I read this part, I get really uncomfortable.
Yeah, he just comes across like so whiny and
literally starts crying.
Yeah. I mean, my God. I mean, we know he has zero game whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know how to deal with the situation. But if he blew it, like in the conversation, the text messaging conversation that we have of them, if he blew it there, he just, oh man.
But it's like it's just like you've known this person. You know why she's telling you she doesn't feel that way about you. It's not because you've never had a girlfriend or because you're a virgin. Like that part, I was just like, really, man?
Oh yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's just so weird. And he's so disconnected from it. Like, he assumes that it's some deficiency on his end. You know what I mean? And that I don't know if that's where it comes from or...
Well, is he blaming it on his deficiencies or her perception or what he thinks is her perception of his deficiencies?
Yeah, I don't know.
It comes off really awkward. And, I mean, in some ways, you kind of have to give her some kudos for handling it as good as anyone could in that situation.
Yeah, because it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, yeah, it could have been a whole lot worse. And he's certainly primed and ready to make it a whole lot worse.
Yeah, he was...
It's kind of like, thank God the Sixers like crashed the party at that moment because it would have...
No shit.
My God.
If ever there was an explosion, that was welcome. Jesus. I mean...
Yeah, it's either the Sixers coming in or she's blasting her way out.
Yeah. Yeah, they never really clarified that.
It's like, fuck, I gotta get the hell out of here. Where's the door? And then it's like, I don't know where the door is. Everywhere looks the same. There's no corner.
She's just hitting a beacon that calls the Sixers like, please just come and fucking take me out. This is the worst. But yeah, so we've already spoiled it, but at this moment, boom, the Sixers blast in through the top of the distracted globe and en masse just begin to start attacking the people there for Ogg's birthday. You would have to imagine that this is, I mean, yeah, it's hundreds and hundreds of Sixers, but this has to be like the most elite people of the Oasis, right? If they're being invited to his birthday, this is an invite only kind of thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the difference between the people inside the distracted globe and the outside, two different worlds.
But it's just like that, like the Sixers come in, and I don't know. I guess this goes understated because it doesn't really say what types of guests the rest of them are. But we know at least 5 of the people invited were the best gunters in the world, and at least
Right.
2 of them showed up. So you would have to imagine that if there were like Oasis athletes, if there were competitive players and things like that, I mean, you would have to imagine that this would have to be a pretty elite set of people within the
Well,
Oasis.
it does say in the beginning of the chapter that it would be celebrities, including movie stars, musicians, and the 2 members of the High Five.
Yeah.
So we know that it's at least that type of celebrity attendance.
Sure, but you would think that they would be loaded down too, right? If they're going into a PvP zone,
You'd think.
and they would have the capital to be pretty well armed. I'm just saying it's not, I mean, they're not going into like your typical swarm of just like regular avatars. You know what I mean? There's going to be some firepower at a place like that. So they know they're running up against pretty heavy resistance, but I think in the book they even outline that the reason that they're there is just to take out the 2 of them. And they don't care what it costs them as far as personnel, right?
Yeah. This kind of reminds me when we talked about like what strategies for being in the Tomb of Horrors and all these high level gunters getting killed, and like the load of the bounty of things you could pick up from all these dead avatars when they lose all their possessions.
Oh yeah.
Like so what do these movie stars have in the way of artifacts and other magical items?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because
there's some loot on the
they're
ground.
wealthy, they can afford the expensive stuff.
But the demonstration of power, whatever artifacts they might have on them, pales in comparison to the creator of the Oasis. Because before much shit can go down, Ogg stands up, calls the Sixers jerks, and releases some lightning from his hands that goes through, arcs around everybody who's not a Sixer, and takes out, it just vaporizes every Sixer in the joint. I thought it was so funny that he calls them jerks. It's just like, of all the things you can say, if you are the voice of God in this moment, and he calls them jerks. It just seemed funny to me. Every time I read it, it makes me laugh. I don't know what else you call them, but
What would you call them?
Dickheads. I guess that it's accurate to call them jerks.
Yeah.
They're not the warmest people in the world.
He is 73.
Yeah. Well, okay, 73, having been, he grew up in the 80s. So I guess, yeah, there's a difference there.
Well,
I'm thinking you got like you automatically think in context to your own time. So like, what would a 73-year-old man say now?
Pretty much, because like I feel like it doesn't really matter like when you grow up, you get to a certain point and your insult vocabulary starts to dwindle a little bit.
Yeah. I guess if it were like a 73-year-old right now, he'd just stand up and say, "You commie bastards!"
Yeah, you whippersnappers.
Oh God, fun to imagine though. But yeah, so Ogg pretty quickly just takes care of the problem, knocks them all out, and Artemis is, or at that point, after a quick little battle, I think Wade has time to take a few out with his blasters. But after everything dies down, amidst the chaos, Wade kind of looks around and sees that Artemis is exiting and heading toward the newly opened exit created by the Sixers coming into the distracted globe, and briefly gives a look back here, which to me is that moment of, you're telling me there's a chance. He doesn't really talk about that, but when she looks back, he's probably like, so it's not over. It's just any inch you give this kid, he's gonna take it in the pursuit of this poor girl. And that's that's basically where the Og kicks the music back on, and that's where we end the chapter. I mean, it's the entire chapter takes place in this distracted globe. It's the only time we see it in the book, but it's an interesting piece, and it's very telling of, I think, how people, appreciate the world building in the book, especially in this chapter, that it does seem to be a feature in the movie, and it's featured pretty heavily in the trailer. Because when you do read it and you hear about this place, it's like, man, that sounds cool.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I think we talked about at one point at the beginning toward the beginning of the book. It was either Chris and I, or it might have been during the community host episode. I can't recall really, but which setting in the Oasis in the book up to that point, or at any point, would you want to see in the movie? Were you most excited to see in the movie? Mine was H's basement, and I think Chris's was the distracted globe. But I would venture a guess that a lot of people would choose the distracted globe.
It does kind of lend itself to being just the most unique space that's described to us. Because everything else is derivative of some other 80s reference, but this is actually relatively original compared to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's just going to be this visual orgasm.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it might be for me a little difficult to watch in 3D IMAX, but I'm going to give it a whirl just because fuck it.
Oh yeah, because wasn't it Zach Penn that tweeted the other day that you have to see it in 3D?
Yeah,
like that's going to be the best way to see it. I'm going to see it in 3D.
Me too.
I'm going full on, man.
I'll probably end up seeing it in 3D twice.
It's going to be good. Everybody calm down. I mean, it's just, it seems like every now and again, it just ramps up where people start talking. I've been seeing this a lot lately too. Just, is it going to suck? Is it going to be bad? It's not going to be like the book. It'll be fine. It's going to be a good movie. Without context of the book, it's going to be a fun movie to watch. Go into it with that same mindset. The same mindset you had if you liked this book. Go into it with just the intent of, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have a fucking blast.
And as long as you set your expectations accordingly, it's going to be an awesome ride.
Yeah. It's going to be a Steven Spielberg movie, regardless of what you think of the book.
Yeah. I'm very excited for it. I think I've gotten over the whole, it's not going to be like the book thing. Yeah. And in some ways, I think I can appreciate that a little bit more, the more I think about it, because it will be a new Ready Player One experience, and which is not something I've been able to do, especially after you've read the book over 25 times. So I'm looking forward to it for that. I think every day I get just more excited.
Me too.
Me too. Me three.
All right. Well, that's it for the chapter. While we're here, Goff, do you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
Oh, about this chapter or anything? I wanted
the chapter, the book, the movie, anything.
When Og has his red lightning shooting, is red lightning a reference to any special monster or weapon? Because we know the Mechagodzilla has blue lightning, but I want to know if the red lightning was a reference to anything.
I wonder if it's from Howard the Duck.
Or a Big Trouble in Little China. Does it come from somewhere? If anybody knows, let me know.
I was gonna say Lopan, but I couldn't remember if he had red lightning. That's from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. So I'm doing that research right now, and I can't solve it.
Howard the Duck. God, I haven't seen that movie in years.
Was it Jeffrey Jones when he becomes possessed? I forget what color the lightning or stuff that comes off of his body is.
Wasn't he the bad guy in The Golden Child too?
Ooh,
that Eddie
I remember
Murphy
that
movie.
Ah, good one.
And I think he turns into like a fucking dragon or something at the end of the movie. I don't remember red lightning though. Huh.
I would have been satisfied.
Something to think about.
Even if you said greased lightning came out of my fingers, that'd be great too. That'd be all right.
Well, hey, if you're out there listening and you've got an answer to that question, To you it may be obvious. To us, it's slipping right past our minds. Those are our guesses. But if you think of anything, feel free to get a hold of us and let us know. Aaron, you were telling me there was something we wanted to talk about so bad during our level 1 discussion, and we glossed over it entirely from chapter 17. That's right.
Yeah. So from chapter 17, what I wanted to mention, but we kind of got caught up in other discussions. But when the chat log between Parzival and Artemis ends, I was doing some looking around to see if there's any significance to the time at which the chat log ended, because the date's the date. There's not going to be much to really delve into that. So the chat log ended at 02:51:38 OST. So 2:51 in the morning on February 27, 2045. So I started looking up those numbers, and one of the first hits that came back to me was about hex colors. So I looked up, I was like, well, what's hex color 02:51:38? And if you go look it up, it's described as a very dark cyan or lime green, like the jade key. And if you search for those numbers and look it up, while we're talking here, you'll see there's like, holy crap, that looks like it could be the color of the jade key. And I thought that was pretty neat.
It would be an odd sort of connection, I think. I mean, it could very well be what, that it was intentional, but it would just be like, you like to think about that kind of stuff. Like, it would be, I guess I'm saying it's like a weird coincidence. It would be odd if it was just completely accidental, I think.
I don't know.
And it's Easter eggs. I mean, the whole book is about Easter eggs.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's going to shove a few in there that, like, I think with, like, a deeper read, you're going to look at, But, anyways, anything else to add, guys?
Do we want to ask people to maybe, like, tweet at us with what they would order at the Distracted Globe or something fun like that?
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, what would you order? What would be your big movie drink? Or if you were to connect it with anything else, if you were at the Distracted Globe and you were just ordering a drink just for, purely for the look of it, because we've pretty much concluded that that's what it's for. What would be your drink of choice? So get a hold of us on Twitter, Facebook, or on the Ready Player One subreddit, and let us know what your drink would be. And if we see it on there, we might read it on the show next time.
We want to create a hashtag like My Oasis Drink.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do that. Would you want to do My Oasis Drink or My Distracted Globe Drink? I think Oasis Drink is shorter and easier to remember. Oh. What do you think? Okay. Yeah. Hashtag My Oasis Drink and share with us what your drink's going to be. All right. Well, that's it for us. We get to the good part this week. Till next time, my name is Ryan.
I'm Aaron.
This is Goth.
So long, folks. Thanks for joining us.